Welcome to Wheels, Deals, and Meals, where we talk all things good food, good business, and good cars. And now, here is your host, Arnold Garcia, founder and CEO of Petra Automotive Products. Let's roll.
Well, we are back here at our International Sales Convention. I want to thank Mark for opening up his home to us. It's really nice of him to do that for us. And, he's usually a private guy, but he said, look, you guys can come and have the convention here at my house. So we're appreciative of that. Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome, man.
Yeah.
No problem.
By the way, you got the best haircut in this convention after me.
I knew you were going to go there, Arnold.
So Mark is my Mexican brother. And we have gotten to know each other I guess less than a year, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
5-6 months, really.
Yeah, less than a year. But, there are certain people that you can kind of hit it off literally like if he's your brother, and Mark is one of those guys. We can just talk and talk crap sometimes or most of the times and just laugh. And it's a good conversation.
Absolutely.
All kidding aside, man, I've enjoyed getting to know you and building a relationship with you, and it's been really, really fun.
Feelings mutual.
Really great. All right, so in the Mark Cortez Museum, okay, so when they build the Mark Cortez Museum in Mexico City, where you're going to retire.
They don't like my last name in Mexico City.
Well, that's true. But when they built this museum, what is the car that must be in there?
The car?
Yeah, the car.
A 59 Cadillac.
Really?
Big wing. The big wing.
Yeah.
That's the car.
Now, why? Is there a meaning? I mean, is there a reason?
Man, growing up as a kid, my old man made his living with service stations. Back in the old days, the full service gas station, right? And so my brother and I worked for my dad since the time we could walk. And my dad supplemented his income by buying and selling crap cars. And but he always talked about how the big Cadillacs with the chrome were always the car that kind of made a man, if you were a man, you owned a big Cadillac. So he had a handful of them throughout my childhood. And man, I just remember that being his thing. So that's kind of a way that I can, I buy and sell and, I dabble with that on the side just as a fun hobby.
But it's a memory that hits.
Oh yeah. It's just something that I do. It's a little labor of love. I lose money on them when I buy them and sell them, but I always have one. Right now I've got a pretty nice one that I've restored.
What was your first car?
A 68 Mustang.
Mine was a 78 Mustang.
Is that right? Yeah.
Cobra Mustang.
Yeah.
Brown and gold. Like the Farrah Fawcett one.
Okay, yeah.
But brown and gold.
Yeah.
1978. Love that car.
Yeah.
You got a classic.
I bought it when I was 13, and he helped me. We bought it with the intent of fixing it up and selling it, and he let me hold on to it. And so I was driving in 8th grade, driving that old car.
Beauty.
Yeah,
that's nice.
Fun.
Of all the places you've traveled, what's your favorite?
Mexico.
We've
been to Europe, we've been, all over, but to us, Mexico feels like home.
Mainly Mexico City.
No, not even like
anywhere in Mexico.
We love this right here. We love the beach,
Cabo,
yeah,
Cancun.
But our favorite is really and truly it's the southern part of Cancun. It's Isla Mujeres.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you ever.
Tulum, Isla Mujeres.
Oh man, it's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
For the money, it's hard.
It is.
Great service.
It is absolutely. I agree. It's a beautiful place.
But if things go well, that's where we'll end up trying to retire at some point.
That's good, man. I'm glad because that way we have another place to go for our convention.
That's right.
What is your bucket list? Like where you want to go that's on your bucket list?
So we've been to Europe, the wife and I have. We have not been to like Italy, France, that area. She, I would say that's something I'm going to have to deliver to the wife at some point here in the next few years. So, Italy, Rome, that area.
Yeah, Italy's nice. You'll love it. You'll love it. What's your favorite food?
Mexican food.
Mexican or Tex-Mex?
Tex-Mex. That's a good distinction. That's a good.
Yeah. I remember first time I went to Mexico and I asked for fajitas and they were like, what?
Yeah. So.
Then I learned in Mexico City, I ordered La Ranchera, I think it is. Mm-hmm. Arrachera, which is basically that skirt steak, but not fajita style.
Right, that's right.
Which is for some reason, the one in Mexico is just so tender. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's my favorite when I go to Mexico, La Arrachera.
Yeah.
But Tex-Mex is my favorite one as well.
I think Tex-Mex may have contributed to both of our
Yeah,
Physique,
the
right?
nice physique that we all carry here.
We happen to be in the area of the world that makes the best Tex-Mex for
The best food, man. I think. Look, I traveled like you. We travel all the time, and we've also been out to eat, and it's I think Texas has, and Houston in particular, the best food. If not, it's in the top anywhere in the U.S.
No
for
doubt.
sure.
No doubt.
It is good food. I love it when I travel somewhere, like somebody will say, man, I'm going to take you to a steakhouse. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, great. We go. And like for that area, that is their best steakhouse. And it may not be bad, but back home, we got some steakhouses that'll knock your socks off.
I love traveling east, and they talk about their barbecue, and come on. The Midwest, you go to KC, and they talk about their
Yeah.
steaks. I'm like, man, all right, whatever.
Yeah. I know. I agree with you. I was in Carolinas, and they do good barbecue, but it's a different barbecue. And, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't
Yeah.
the smoked barbecue that we have.
Nobody does brisket like Texas.
Oh man, I know. It's slow and good, All right, where were you born?
Beeville, Texas.
Beeville, Texas. For those that don't know where Beeville, Texas is, what's the closest city?
So the landmarks, between San Antonio and Corpus Christi, they're connected by I-37. So Beeville, Texas is pretty much slack right in the middle of those two cities.
So Beeville, Texas is about an hour from Corpus?
Mhm.
And about 3 hours from the border.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just to give people some, a perspective of where it is on the map. Did you live there all your life?
So I was born there because that was the nearest hospital. I actually grew up in a small little town called George West, Texas.
Where's that at?
So that's 30 minutes or so from Beeville.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you grew up there.
Mhm.
So born in Beeville, grew up in George
West.
West. Heard of Georgetown, but George West.
Yeah.
So you grew up in George West. You're there all your life?
All my life. My
You were-
parents grew up in that area.
High school, everything there.
Mhm. Grandparents grew up in that same area. So yeah.
Is your family still there?
Mhm. Oh yeah.
You still go back?
It's been a while, but I go back 2-3 times a year.
Okay.
Just to see family and catch up with family. Yeah.
That's great. That's good. Okay, so you're there. How old are you when you leave George West?
I left at 18, right when I graduated high school.
Graduated high school, you said, I'm out. All right, where'd you go?
So luckily for me, I got out of the small town because of an opportunity I had to play football. I was very fortunate and had some different interests with different schools, but decided to go to Fort Worth to TCU. So I left the day after high school graduation and went.
So you got a
Fort Worth.
scholarship at
I
TCU?
did, yes sir.
Okay, so let me go back a minute. So you played football in high school.
I did.
What position?
In high school, I played tight end and I played defensive end.
Okay,
At
and in college?
TCU, I became an offensive lineman.
No kidding.
Yes sir.
That's weird.
So oddly enough, and this is something that I learned along with all my peers, our O-line coach had a philosophy where he would go out and recruit tight ends. He wanted kids with good feet, with athleticism that could catch the ball, and he'd convert them day one to offensive linemen. So
Well-
we weren't the biggest offensive line, but we were quick, we were
You're
athletic,
fast.
we could,
You can move on your feet.
That's right.
Yeah.
So different mentality than today. Today,
Because the mentality is the refrigerator, right?
yeah.
The block.
Mhm.
But interesting.
Yeah,
That's
there were a handful of us that played O-line in my day that were tight ends.
Did you play your 4 years
Mhm.
at TCU?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
They're 5 years. I got redshirted my first year, but I played, all 4 years.
Did you win any championship?
We won a Southwest Conference championship in 1994. It was a 4-way tie for the conference championship. But man, we deserved it every bit as much as everybody else did. So I wear the ring with pride.
With pride,
Oh,
of
yeah.
course.
Heck yeah.
For sure, man.
Heck yeah.
So when you were in high school,
Mm-hmm.
how does that work? Does that, like, do you get calls from schools and then you got to decide where to go to?
Man, that's a great question because it's so different today
yeah, I
than it was
know.
back in the 90s.
For one thing,
I was.
Now you get
Internet.
paid.
Yeah, well, that's a whole different
Subject, I know,
interview.
yeah.
But in my day, the only way to get exposure was if a coach happened to stumble upon you or hear, hey, there's a real big kid down here. It was, you could easily be overlooked, right? So I had a coach, and I actually had a friend's father that really saw something in me, and he got me, literally, he took me on the recruiting trail. Like, he was a guy whose family had some experience and some history with Texas Tech. So he took me to Texas Tech. They saw me. I kind of passed the eyeball test. And from there, it just kind of steamrolled. Like, other schools found out about me. that same guy helped fund me to go to a football camp, Emmett Smith football camp in Denton. I'd never been north of Austin in my entire life. And he helped me come up with the money one summer to get me to that camp. And that camp is what made all the difference in the world for me. Like, all the coaches and the colleges there were like, hey man, this kid can play. And I got a lot of opportunities from it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you have any chance to go pro?
You know, there was probably a chance here or there.
And I know it's like, I forgot the number, but it's like 1% of college kids go pro.
It's
or less.
For me, it wasn't in the cards. Just, you know, to be brutally honest, I was an inch or two too short, step or two too slow, and about 20 to 50 pounds too light. You know,
People don't, I mean, I think some people that love sports realize it, but I love football.
Yeah.
When you go to high school to college, it is a big gap.
Huge.
Right? It's a whole, like, you're in high school and you can tell
Oh yeah.
that guy's going to college, that guy's going to make it into pro, because he's just playing at a different level. College to pro, they said it's even tighter.
Oh yeah.
Like, that gap is,
Huge.
you're just way out there.
It's the speed of the game too. Like, from high school to college, I wasn't much smaller than the people that I was playing against. I lacked the coaching sophistication that a lot of these kids from the bigger schools, from Austin, San Antonio, Dallas. Like, I was in a small little Willie town, right? So I was behind from day one, but that adjusts quickly. What takes time is the speed of the game. It's just so much faster. And then as you get more reps, as you get more confidence, the game starts slowing down. But that's what I'm told. You know, my friends that moved on and played in the pros, that variance.
I mean,
it's even,
I know. Can you imagine the speed and the fastness of that pro game
Oh, yeah.
live when you're on the line? Like, you know, let's go.
So
I think sometimes on TV you feel it like it's a slow motion. You know?
So I noticed you had the Astros deal on. You're a baseball
Yeah.
fan, right? So I've had this argument with baseball guys my entire life. When I began playing offensive line, I've quickly found out it's the hardest thing to do in sports, without a doubt. And you hear the baseball guys all the time say, oh, hitting a Major League Baseball is the hardest thing to do in sports. I call BS on that. You know, like, as an offensive lineman, everything that you do, everything you're trained to do, all the motion, all of the technique is awkward. It's backward. You're moving backward while the best athletes on the field are moving at you. You can't see where the quarterback is. They can, right? You're taught to punch as you're moving backward, which is, again, it's irregular. It's all the movements are just irregular.
They're not natural.
Yeah. So, like, what I always tell the baseball guys is, if you got your average guy and put a helmet and shoulder pads on him and said, hey, you're going to get 100 attempts, 100, to drop back in pass protection and block the worst defensive end in the NFL, the worst one. How many times do you think he could block you?
Never.
Never, not once, right? But if you gave that same guy a baseball bat and said, hey, I'm going to throw you 100 fastballs, he'll hit the ball 9 or 10 times, right? But that same scenario with a pro defensive end, they're going to care flight that guy.
Yeah.
After about the third round.
Yeah.
It's a tough, tough
100%.
job.
100%. I think it's so true for sure. Okay, so what was your first job?
Working with my father.
Okay.
Service station.
And you did that basically until you went to college?
Cleaning windshields, pumping gas, you know, you're doing light, you know.
Brother, I need you to sell my detail products. You got experience in it.
Heck yeah.
Okay, so you graduate college, and then what happens?
So when I graduated college, I got run into the car business. So as a football player, where I was playing, they rewarded good behavior, good grades with the better summer internships, right? So if you kept your nose clean, if you were a guy that was contributing on the football field, you were the guy that had opportunities at some of the better jobs. So I worked, you know, thank goodness I got an opportunity with Ford Credit and did an internship with them and fell in love with the car business. I'd always kind of felt like I was in the car business with my old man.
Right.
So I always had a love for all things auto, right? But when I went to Ford, it took on a whole new level. Like, it opened my eyes to a lot of different career paths within the automotive industry. And so that was my first real job in college. I did that for 2 summers and found out real quick. They offered me a job right out of college, right after graduation. And I'll never forget the guy's name. He came to me, one of the managers there at Ford came to me, and he said, "You don't want to do this job, Mark." He said, "You want to go into retail." And I'll never forget everything he told me. I went and told my father, and my father was like, "Hey, you didn't just go through 5 years of school to go into retail. You could have done that out of high school, right?" So my dad tried to talk me out of it. All my friends tried to talk me out of it. But the path that existed for me going the retail route is what led to me doing what I do today. Worked out extremely well.
That's great. Okay, so you go to Ford Motor Credit, then what?
So right out of college, I went to work for a company called EFG Companies. So EFG Companies was a company that does what EasyCare does. And they interviewed me, and they put me right into retail on a fast track where they...
So explain what EasyCare and EFG did. What do they do?
So we are... EasyCare...
Like if somebody says, give me the elevator pitch, what do you guys do?
We're a premier provider of F&I products and services for car dealers. We help car dealers kind of get what they want and what they need out of their business, i.e. profitability, efficiencies. We help dealers make more money. So the company I went to work for did that very same thing. At the time, they were the biggest and the best in the region, that Oklahoma, Texas, corridor. They were the best company in the marketplace. So what they did that was different, it was a bit of a departure from what everyone else did, is they invested in college kids. They looked for kids that knew nothing about retail automotive. Absolutely nothing.
Green.
They wanted kids that were green, kids with strong work ethic.
Train them.
Yep. Athletes that are used to being hit in the face and coming back for more. People with a competitive mindset that wouldn't take no for an answer, right? So they were very successful at finding kids like me that come from an athletic background, come from a hardworking blue-collar background.
It's really not that. As you think about that, it's a good model.
Absolutely. It's labor-intensive.
Yeah.
It's time-consuming, right? But it pays off. People from my background, I saw the hours and the time and the energy that my father, my family put in, and to me, the 9 to 5 was never an option.
Yeah.
So it didn't take long.
I don't think I've ever had a 9 to 5.
Yeah. So the car business and the challenges that it presents, that was just another day at the office for me. It didn't scare me getting into it, and it also didn't bother me once I was doing it. I was able to move up and to progress my career quickly.
EFG, how long did you stay with them?
So I did retail for those guys, and then after a period of about 3 to 4 years, they pulled me out of retail, and I managed one of the biggest districts for them in the country there in Dallas-Fort Worth. It was the prime district that you wanted, right? So they pulled me out of retail, and I started that in 2002, 2001, and moved up pretty quickly in that company also.
What was your last position there?
I was a VP of sales for a startup company that they had called Walkaway USA. I don't know if you've heard about it, but
no.
it was a program that they licensed from Canada, and it ultimately became Hyundai Assurance at the end of the day.
Wow. Okay, so were you there when it became Hyundai Assurance?
No.
Okay, you had already left.
Mm-hmm.
So after EFG, where did you go?
Zurich.
Okay, big,
and very, very different companies, very different mindsets. Did the same thing. Have the same value proposition to dealers, but just did it very, very different. Right.
And how long were you with them?
Almost 9 years.
And then?
After that, came to work for a company called Dealer Alliance, which these are guys that all came from that EFG origin, right? These are guys that had started an agency in Dallas. In a lot of ways, they'd mentored me from a young age when I first started in the business, and they had a very successful agency working. I went to work for them, had a fantastic run with them, and then that's when we were acquired in 2023 by Courtney and by NAC.
So in this business, you've been how long?
Since I graduated, so since 23, so right at 27 years.
Wow. People sometimes, as we talk to, especially the younger people, right? Maybe your kids or my kids, sometimes they see, man, Mark made it, right? Mark is there. Mark gets to buy that Cadillac, but what they don't see is 27 years.
The grind.
That's right. Right? You didn't start here, you started here,
mm-hmm.
right? They don't see that. What do you think when you look back at, self-reflection? How did Mark get from here to here? What do you think are a couple of nuggets that as I look back, I think these are a couple of things that got me here. What are they?
So I'll talk about my upbringing again, man. My father taught my brother and I, my sisters, that like anything worthwhile requires sacrifice, right? And my old man never took vacations, never took weekends. Like he worked 7 days a week his entire life. That's just how he did it, right? So as a kid growing up, I didn't know any different. So I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that I'm the hardest working human being on the planet. But I had a bar set from a young age that, man, to get what you want in this world, you gotta scratch and claw and you gotta work. You gotta outwork people, right? So it's the same thing. I know you try to teach your kiddos. It's the same thing I try to teach my kiddos. And man, I'm forever grateful to my old man for teaching me that.
I'll take you that. Yeah, me too. I think you can kind of sum up what you said is you got to out hustle.
Sure.
You got to work and out hustle.
Yeah.
I interviewed Troy Duhon one time, and it was something like this. He'd show up at the dealership, and he just knew you got to outdo everybody else.
That's right.
I just got to outdo everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I got to work and work and work until I beat everybody else.
That's right. Exactly.
Some people may look at that and go, wow, that's pretty aggressive. It's not that it's an aggressive thing or a mean thing. It's if you're going to succeed, you have to out hustle the other guy.
That's right.
Right? You got to always be creative and always be working. You got to be there.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, if you're there, something's going to happen. You just got to be there.
That's right.
Right? But if you don't show up,
yeah,
it's going to happen without you.
That's right.
But it's going to happen. People that are watching this, young kids that want to be the next Mark Cortez, what are 2 pieces of advice you can give?
That's a good question. What I would say, we're talking about work ethic, right? And that's extremely important. You will not reach your goals, as you well know, without a strong work ethic. But the other thing I think that people lose sight of is just attitude. Like I tell my kiddos, I coached all their youth sports, right? And I just try to drive home to kids. And coaching kids is not all that different than managing and coaching and mentoring adults, right? It's your attitude, your work ethic. And some people have a natural ability to maintain a positive outlook on everything, to look at a cup half full versus half empty. And other people, unfortunately, they don't have that. They have their immediate response is, hey man, like this is rough, or oh, woe is me, I'm the victim, right? Like to me, if you can maintain a strong mental attitude and have the right work ethic, it doesn't matter what decision you make, what major you have, what degree plan you pursue. None of that matters. You're going to be successful at whatever you do, in my opinion. And I really think that's it.
It is. I mean, that's great. That's really good advice. Really good advice. Well, brother, listen, we appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me.
Thank you very much. We got to do this more often.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You guys.
Listen, make sure we should do like at a barbershop. Like just some guy just shaving our heads, put a whole bunch of foam. I think it'd be like two barbershop chairs. It's like a barbershop conversation.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. For you and I, that'd be an interesting one, man.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, man. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for listening to Wheels, Deals, and Meals, your main source for all things good and fun, business, food, and cars. If you like this episode, make sure to rate us and subscribe. If you would like to be a guest on our show, please leave a message at the link below. Till next time, happy eating.